The action-packed wheels of God of High School continue to turn as we present you with the first part of our ongoing coverage of the Manhwa's Ragnarok storyline named the World Tournament Arc. Now, just a note before we begin, guys, we're going to be covering the entire World Tournament Arc in this video, which is not to be confused with the arc that preceded it, which is named the World Competition Arc. Specifically, we're going to give you the lowdown on everything you need to know about the 217th to the 232nd episodes of the God of High School Manhwa in this video. And since we mentioned the World Competition Arc, do feel free to check out our previous God of High School videos if you haven't already. Believe us, they're a bunch of bangers. With all that out of the way, let's dive right into God of High School's World Tournament Arc. The battle commences. The first part of the Ragnarok Mega-Arc has us seeing Mujin Park pretty much begging his fellow 6 member and Tai Chi master, Na Bongchim, to come out of his estate to parley with him. Mujin bows low and humbly pleads for Bongchim's assistance in spite of the fact that there's a large sign stuck on the estate's door saying that it's closed. A few moments later, Bongchim's student aide and former God of High School competitor Go Gamdo comes out of the Bongchim estate to humbly turn away Mujin's request. According to Gamdo, Bongchim had told him to tell Mujin that the master will not pay any attention to whatever Mujin is planning until he has finished his training. In addition to that, Gamdo relays the message that Bongchim has no intention of aiding Mujin's ambition whatsoever. Hearing this, Mujin can only comment about how Bongchim doesn't seem to understand his plans. Mujin then speculates that Na Bongchim is trying to attain the state of Jobonchim that the old man has been dreaming of for so long, given that he possesses the divine pellet. Expanding on that, Mujin surmises that Bongchim plans on becoming the next special human cultural asset on the next 6th day, an event where each member of the 6 competes with each other for the said title. In the end, Mujin wonders what Bongchim hopes to attain from becoming a special human cultural asset if the other members of the 6 don't participate in the upcoming event. Still, he drops the thought and simply tells Gamdo to tell Bongchim to come to Uedo if he ever changes his mind. Not long after that, we find ourselves in the middle of the God of High School's World Tournament arena, just as the announcer of the event announces the beginning of the contest. And believe us when we say that it's one grand event, as the stadium itself covers 2/3 of the entire Uedo area. That, coupled with the fact that it can literally hold 6.5 million audience members, drive the point home that this particular tournament is going to be one for the books. So much so that you'd think the announcer isn't exaggerating when he says that even all the souls in heaven and hell have their eyes peeled to see what's going to happen in this tournament. We then get a lowdown on the specific rules of the contest, and it's absolutely bonkers. Suffice it to say that this God of High School tournament is an absolute no-holds-barred fight to the death. Each contestant can use whatever weapon they want and are allowed to attack their opponent's fatal areas. The bloodthirsty audiences on the stands cheer when they hear this. The announcer then points high up to the VIP chambers where the host of the tournament, who is none other than Nox's king, aka Okwang, gives out a hilariously short speech telling the contestants to do their best. Huey sees the king from his chambers and surveys the area. When he looks up, Huey recognizes that they're right below the stadium's central control room. Mira then tells her teammates that the announcer looks eerily similar to the late executive member T. In the middle of the arena, the announcer then calls on Sang Mandok to give the audiences and contestants one more speech before properly commencing the tournament. Somewhere else, Mujin gets absolutely livid when he sees Mandok on screen that it takes Judge S to hold him back from breaking the television in front of them. And boy does Mandok know how to pump up the masses. He gets all hyped and tells the contestants one thing: fight! The crowd erupts in ravenous, thunderous cheers, while Mujin has a breakdown from where he's watching the tournament. And with that, the God of High School World Tournament begins. Team Vatican approaches Team Korea, where Paul reminds Huey that their main objective is to defeat Nox. As such, they should prioritize their mission instead of focusing on winning the tournament. Paul then expresses his and Team Vatican's intention to do everything they can to help Team Korea reach the tournament's final so that they can push through with their original mission to take down Nox. It's not going to be an easy task though, because we soon find out that Team Vatican has their work cut out for them when one of their members, John, gets pummeled by Team Croatia's Zoronica. The Croatian nearly boxes the lights out of John with a solid punch to the face before peppering him with jabs that send the Vatican team member's head bouncing like a pinball. Zoronica's combo culminates with a cracking knee that hits John's chin clean before going for a barrage of strikes that his opponent can't answer. A short distance away, Dae-wi notices that Zoronica is playing John, which makes Mira all the more furious at the disrespect that Team Croatia is showing their opponents. Huey then tells his friends that it's their turn to get on the stage. The audiences meet them with loud boos and jeers. Well, that is except for a small section near the front row who seem to be genuinely cheering for Mira. We find out that Team Korea is going against Team South Africa. Their leader, Mujahideen, walks up to Huey and tells him that he's going to fight and take his soul. In doing so, Mujahideen believes that Dae-wi and Mira will be convinced to drop out of the tournament when they see their strongest member get taken out. Mujahideen flexes as he prepares to fight Huey, but Dae-wi steps in and tells his teammates that he's going to get in there first in order to gauge how strong the competition in the tournament really is. Seeing this, Mujahideen tells Dae-wi to look at the other stage where Veronica continues to wail on John. He then tells Dae-wi that that's what's going to happen to him soon enough. The announcer then stands between them to reiterate the rules of the tournament, but Dae-wi cuts him off and asks if he's actually Executive Member T. The announcer hears this and gets dumbfounded, falling silent for a bit before telling Dae-wi to cut the chit-chat during the match. The announcer then tells the two contestants to get to their corners as he declares the start of their fight. We then discover that the first phase of the World Tournament consists of a round of 32 where 4 matches will happen at the same time until the 16th round. The audiences aren't too happy with what they're seeing. However, considering that the match between John and Veronica is a lopsided snooze fest. In the meantime, Dae-wi prepares his game plan just as the announcer rings the proverbial bell to start his bout against Mujahideen. Specifically, Dae-wi plans on striking first and striking hard before his opponent can make a move. On the sidelines, Mira notes that Dae-wi's chances of losing will increase the longer the fight gets due to his eye injury and the problems with his borrowed power, so his best chance of winning against his opponent is to catch them off guard. The fight begins and Dae-wi wastes no time to hit Mujahideen with a preemptive strike, but then he notices that the South African warrior has teleported right behind him before he could even land his attack. Mujahideen gloats about how a lioness does her best even when hunting a mere gazelle, as he prepares to strike down Dae-wi with his own borrowed power called Umdigi. Team South Africa thinks they've won, as Dae-wi starts to feel dizzy when Umdigi appears in front of him and seemingly hypnotizes the karate master. Mujahideen then summons his national treasures, the spear and shield combo named Malungma and Xian. Mira smacks her hand on the mat of the ring and calls for Dae-wi to snap him out of it. Mujahideen tells Dae-wi that their bout is over, but he immediately gets humbled when Dae-wi reveals that he's been bluffing all this time. The karate master turns around and surprises Mujahideen with a solid body strike followed by a couple of haymakers to his body and face. Dae-wi doesn't let up either as he cracks the South African with a classic karate chop to the neck that makes Mujahideen buckle. And trust us when we say that Dae-wi's in a flow state right now as he ends Mujahideen with a cracking punch to the face. In fact, our guy is so in the zone that he doesn't stop his barrage and nearly ends Mujahideen's life with a devastating curb stomp, which Dae-wi pulls back when the referee steps in to declare him the winner. The crowd falls silent after watching this display, with each and every one of them taken aback by how brutal Dae-wi is. But there's one audience member who's not at all impressed with his performance, and that dude is none other than Team Japan's own karate master, Sugihara. Sugihara calls Dae-wi an idiot and pretty much chastises his fellow karate practitioner for going with a risky tactic like that. He further explains that the only reason Dae-wi was able to find an opening for his first strike was because Mujahideen kept on blabbering instead of just taking down Dae-wi the moment he got the chance. Sugihara concludes that Dae-wi got lucky during that bout, while his fellow Team Japan members Koichi and Midori watch intently at the next opponent Dae-wi is about to face. Team South Africa's Azizi then enters the ring. He's a big dude and Sugihara instantly recognizes that the man's a wrestler from his cauliflower ear. He thinks that Azizi, being a wrestler, would be a bad matchup for Dae-wi, who's more of a striker. But Dae-wi proves Sugihara wrong in a matter of seconds when he hits Azizi with a masterful question mark kick that even the announcer can't believe. Dae-wi follows it up with Kyokushin Karate, Brazilian kick, which promptly destroys Azizi and sends him to sleep. He's declared the victor again, but the last member of Team South Africa, Zamila, sucker punches him. Dae-wi goes on the defensive, which gives Zamila enough time to summon her own borrowed power, Pazuzu, to barrage her opponent with a flurry of strikes. However, Zamila is in for a surprise when she notices that Dae-wi doesn't seem to be taking any damage from her attacks. When she turns towards him, she sees Dae-wi appearing to have an aura of a bull, as the karate master takes a single step toward her and loads up his counterattack. To add insult to injury, Dae-wi hits Zamila square in the chin with a technique simply called Basic Punch, which literally knocks the gas mask off of her sneaky head. The rest of the tournament's competitors can't help but admire and respect Dae-wi's prowess, realizing that the leader of Team Korea is an absolute unit that they can't push around. And with that, Dae-wi sweeps Team South Africa and Team Korea advances to the next leg of the tournament. Meanwhile, Veronica can't believe that John is still standing after he basically pummeled the Team Vatican member this whole time. When Veronica turns his attention towards the sidelines, he recognizes that the reason behind this is because Paul has been using his healing skill on John. Veronica tries to protest this with the referee, but he gets rebuffed when it's explained that team members not actively fighting are allowed to interfere with the match as long as they don't attack the opposing team members directly. Simply put, much like the events of the World Competition arc, Team Vatican is getting away with a technicality yet again. With Veronica winded out from exerting himself, John prepares for a counterattack. He then proceeds to take out Veronica as the audience cheers and gives John the nickname Vatican Zombie. Nearby, Team USA's Anna easily dispatches Team Mongolia's Batu with a single punch that rips off her jacket to reveal that she's wearing a superhero costume complete with capes and knee-high boots. And with that, it's announced that the next stage of the tournament will see Team Korea facing off against Team USA. It doesn't take long for the bout between Team Korea and Team USA to start, and this time Mira's chosen to enter the ring. We find out that she's currently locked in battle with Anna, who barrages her with some of the most unsurprisingly American-themed techniques you'd see on God of High School. First, the blonde girl hits Mira with a technique deliciously called Oreo Punch, which the Korean swordsman blocks with her sword. Still, the impact of Anna's attack is enough to throw back Mira a bit, and it's so loud that audiences can't help but cover their ears from the sonic boom that Oreo Punch causes. Anna follows it up with a dropkick called Nacho Kick. Mira is able to block it again, but this one's more powerful than the hit she took earlier, so much so that it causes a shockwave in the middle of the ring. The superhero-themed Team America competitor keeps putting pressure on Mira too, as she barrages her with a flurry of punches with a technique called Skittle Tornado. Mira successfully blocks each punch until the impact from Anna's punches breaks her sword. Anna notices that this is her chance, so she loads up another snack-themed attack called Pringles Kick. But at the same time, Mira is able to draw another one of her weapons, Sword number 7, and the two fighters' attacks connect at the same time. Mira hits Anna with her sword right in the ribs, while the American is able to land her Pringles Kick right on Mira's gut. The fans are impressed with what they're seeing, as the announcer declares how evenly matched Mira and Anna are. But there's one guy who doesn't think that's true: Team Argentina's Samuel Rosinante. He watches the fight unfold and calls bull when the announcer says how even this matchup is. To him, Mira's on the losing end of this battle, considering that she's broken several of her weapons from defending against Anna's attacks. Adding to that, Samuel thinks that Anna is just playing around Mira. In the middle of the ring, Anna decides to up the stakes and summon her borrowed power, the Thunder God Thor. Meanwhile, we find out that Anna has her own fan club in the stands cheering for her, much like Mira's. Anna, in true superhero fashion, starts to float high up in the air and attempts to shoot Mira with eye lasers using an ability called Lollipop Beam. It doesn't work though, because the Moonlight Sword style practitioner literally slices Anna's eye beams and throws it back at her. The announcer sees this and biasly appraises how amazing Mira is. A second later, Anna lets out a booming laugh that nearly deafens everyone in the stands. The American then pretty much tells Mira that she's ready to get serious now. In fact, Anna's teammates, with Hawk and J-Doggy, start to get antsy when they realize what she's planning to do. Because moments later, we find out that Anna has used her super strength to literally carry the entire ring on her back. But Mira's unfazed when she witnesses this. Instead, she focuses on her sword technique and finally gets used to using the blade. On the sidelines, even Huey and Dae-wi notice that Mira's skills with her new weapons are pretty good. Meanwhile, Mira faces off against her opponent, telling her how sword number 2 and number 5 fit her hand. Hearing this, Anna basically tells Mira to shut her mouth before she tries to hurl the entire ring at the Team Korea member. But guess what, guys? Mira effortlessly catches the ring with the tip of her sword while reminding herself of the lessons she's learned in the past. She even takes a moment to turn to the announcer to try and shake off his memory, sure that this is the same guy as Executive Member T. Anna takes this moment to hit Mira with a thunderous technique called Mjolnir Kick, but the swordsman counters with her very own Wolwang and Poma Haoyang collaboration, Cube Cut ability. They clash in midair and Mira literally shreds the superhero costume off of Anna, revealing her sexy toned body for all to see. Mira's fans cheer loud for her victory, while Anna's fans cheer louder for the free peep show they're getting. And with that, Mira's declared the winner. Hell, even Anna starts becoming her fan after their fight. Suddenly, the next bout of this round starts and J-Doggy tries to bull rush Mira. She just eats it up, taunts the football-themed Team America member, and shows that she's not one to be messed with. Mira then takes out J-Doggy with a single diagonal slice of her sword. Somewhere else, the King of Nox walks along his chambers. He tells someone that his organization is in pretty bad shape at the moment, considering that Zones 6 and 7 have been ambushed at the same time. And without the God of Fight to protect their assets, they've been left vulnerable from these threats. We then find out that the king is talking to a group of monuments to other gods, as he proposes to turn Jin Tai-jin into Natak's successor. That is to say, the King of Nox plans on turning the legendary warrior into the new God of Fight. We then get caught up with what's happening with Jin Mori inside the structure within the Sage Realm's ruins. It turns out that he's already reached the 7th floor of the building, which appears as swirls of multicolored fluids all over. Mori notices that the gatekeeper is kneeling in front of something a short distance away. When he gets a closer look, the Monkey King notices that the gatekeeper is right in front of the same black orb that attacked him earlier. Suddenly, the black orb expands and grows large. It tries to stab the gatekeeper in the face with one of its tendrils, but Mori springs into action and deflects the hit. He then asks the black orb if he saw Ilpio and the white giant nearby. Mori doesn't want to fight. He just wants answers, and he makes it clear in front of the black orb. However, the spherical entity answers Mori with violence and starts repeatedly trying to stab him with numerous tendrils. Mori dodges each and every one of the sharp tendrils and asks the globe to stop. He repeats himself and tells it that he's not here to fight, but the globe just continues to get all aggressive and try to take out the Monkey King. It grows spikes all over its body and attacks Mori again. So, Mori uses Yui to wreck a few of the spikes and push the giant orb away. His newfound fans become even more impressed with just how strong the Monkey King is. In fact, his little robot companion even comments that they might be witnessing a revolution right before their very eyes. Plus, we also find out from the little guy that the orb is actually the owner of the 7th floor of the structure and that it's also known as the last king of the world. Meanwhile, Mori pleads with the last king to calm the hell down, because he really just wants to find the white giant in Ilpio. Mori tells it that if it doesn't know where they are, then it can just let him pass through the floor peacefully. The last king isn't hearing any of it, however. Instead, it summons more globes from all over the swirls around the 7th floor until they number in the hundreds. The globes start to grow spikes and simultaneously lunge at Mori. The last king's attack is so devastating that it almost reaches all the spectators nearby, with the gatekeeper forming a shield to protect himself and everyone around him from the last king's spikes. A second later, we see Mori right in the middle of the last king's sharp tendrils. He's safe and sound, as we see that he was able to dodge the spikes and use Yui to block a few of them too. Realizing that the last king has no plans of hearing him out, Mori decides to fight back. So he drops Yui on one of the spikes before summoning his trademark Thunderbolt technique to rain down on the 7th floor. Back at the God of High School tournament, we get a full bio for who J-Doggy really is. It turns out that the Team America member is one of the most gifted athletes and most loved celebrities around. For one, J-Doggy is a 5-time Super Bowl champ, 5-time Super Bowl MVP, and 5-time Person of the Year according to Time magazine. J-Doggy holds the record for the 100-meter dash, for shot put, for the world's strongest grip, and for running back breakthrough. Oh, and J-Doggy holds the world record for the most American achievement of all, eating 72,456 calories in one sitting, not to mention that the athlete regularly donates to starving kids in Africa and even DJs every Friday night. In the present, though, Mira has just made J-Doggy look like a scrub after slicing him up with her sword. From the stands, even Sugihara comments that Mira might be the most underestimated fighter in the God of High School World Tournament, considering how strong she really is. But the biggest surprise comes when Mira and J-Doggy each step back from their clash. Mira notices that J-Doggy is still standing thanks to his helmet, but she was able to slice it in half to reveal that the Team America member is actually a woman. Well, not really. That's because God of High School has just taken us for a loop right here with a double bluff, guys, because moments later we find out that J-Doggy's football jersey is actually a power suit, and the kicker is that he's actually a dude, like a really, really pretty dude. The revelations don't end there either, as J-Doggy talks to Mira and reveals that he's a gay man aspiring to be a trans woman. In fact, he tells Mira that the only reason he has trained his body to be at peak physical condition was because he wanted to shape it to look more like a woman. J-Doggy then expresses his own disappointment that none of his efforts to transition into a woman worked, as the entire stadium cheers him on for coming out right in the middle of the tournament. Meanwhile, Mira asks J-Doggy why he won't just get a sex change. He can afford it after all. He then tells her that was his original plan. However, he ultimately fell in love with the camaraderie and experience of being a pro football player. Simply put, J-Doggy just didn't have the time to get the sex change he wanted until now. Hearing this, Mira sincerely asks J-Doggy that the NFL might not let him play in their league again now that he's decided to come out of the closet publicly. But J-Doggy planned for this. According to him, he was planning on retiring from the gridiron after the God of High School tournament anyway. After that, he'll get that surgery and live the life the way he wants. Right then and there, J-Doggy picks up and wears his shoulder pads. Mira notices that his football jersey was actually a power suit that was made to make J-Doggy appear taller than he really was. Mira's thoughts are interrupted when J-Doggy suddenly rushes right in front of her and tries to hit her with an overhand right. She blocks it with her sword before leaping back to dodge her opponent's follow-up punch. She then resurfaces right behind J-Doggy and hits him with a couple of slashes to the back. Mira's just about ready to deliver the finishing blow, but she fails to notice that J-Doggy is already loading up another punch. The NFL superstar cracks Mira with a powerful right hook that nearly drops her. He then attempts to stop Mira, but she reacts in the nick of time and leaps away from her opponent. Everyone notices that J-Doggy is the complete package that combines both speed and power. Not only that, but he's one durable fighter, with Mira's slashes seemingly having no effect on him at all. Dae-wi wonders if J-Doggy is using a defensive form of borrowed power, but Huey corrects him and says that J-Doggy hasn't used any borrowed power at all. This is just pure, uncut physical prowess. In the middle of the ring, J-Doggy thanks Mira for defeating Team South Africa. It turns out that Mujahideen's team defeated Team USA in the past. Not too far away, Andre Oscar of Team France explains that Team USA's defeat at the hands of Team South Africa was all because of synastry. Simply speaking, it all boils down to the matchups. You see, Team USA relies on physical, offensive attacks. Meanwhile, Team South Africa employed craftier tactics based on hallucinations. This made them the worst matchup for Team USA. On the other hand, Team Korea had Dae-wi, whose one eye managed to have Team South Africa's hallucinatory techniques. In turn, Team Korea was the worst matchup for Team South Africa. And now that Team Korea defeated Team South Africa, it's pretty much the case that they removed the only obstacle in Team USA's way, inadvertently helping them in the tournament. Back in the middle of the ring, J-Doggy starts to taunt Mira. He calls her the weakest member of Team Korea before asking if he can rather fight the sexy man who took down Team South Africa all alone, referring to Dae-wi. Listening to this grinds Mira's gears, so she rushes toward J-Doggy and slashes him with her sword. She follows it up with another zigzag slash to his back before trying to end the bout right then and there. However, Dae-wi notices that she's rushing, so he calls for Mira to stay focused and not let her emotions get the better of her. Too late though, because J-Doggy is able to counter Mira's barrage with a solid overhand left that hits her in the face. J-Doggy then tackles Mira and grabs her by the arm for the killing blow. At this point, Huey prepares to enter the ring and tells Dae-wi that it's time to sub Mira out. According to him, there's no need to push themselves since they're already up by a point in this round. However, Dae-wi stops Huey from throwing in the towel and tells him that Mira is going to kill him if he does that. He then tells Huey that there's an emotion powering Mira to fight through any obstacle right in front of her, and it's an emotion called pride. At that moment, Mira manages to headbutt J-Doggy and keep the fight going. Meanwhile, Huey is reminded of Alex and Violetta during the World Competition arc, when the Macedonian warrior staked his pride in fighting against Dante. Somewhere else, Mugen tells his allies that the war against Nox is right in front of their nose and that they should wear the mask in the box. Judge Q stares at something and a look of shock is painted all over his face. Back in the tournament, Mira proceeds to repeatedly headbutt J-Doggy right in the nose, which causes the NFL superstar to recoil and retreat. He then tells Mira to stop and asks her if she's not worried about ruining her face from fighting like that. In reply to this, Mira tells J-Doggy that she's more concerned about not living up to her team's expectations. Mira believes that she has to do everything she can in order to help her friends. For one, she feels like she owes Dae-wi for losing an eye. For another, she wants to strive to be just as strong as Huey. All in all, what Mira fears the most is if she becomes of no help to her own team. Hearing this makes J-Doggy discover a newfound sense of respect for Mira. He likens her to a football running back, a lonely but beautiful position tasked with moving the ball across the field. J-Doggy then declares that he's going to give this fight his all from here on out, something that Mira welcomes. They clash and Mira uses her Wolwang swordsmanship Luna Halo technique to drive her sword right into J-Doggy's shoulder. However, the Team USA member just eats it up and goes for his body check technique, sending Mira flying with a powerful tackle. He then hits her with another body check just as she lands, driving Mira right through a pillar. After that, J-Doggy activates a flurry of punches called Lineman Punch, with Mira desperately defending against each hit. All the while, Mira just gets more and more determined to prove herself with every punch she takes. She stops blocking J-Doggy's shots and leaves herself open to take every hit. But then she finds a small opening which allows her to activate Wolwang's Sea Fog Slash. Curiously enough, J-Doggy doesn't take the hit and wonders if Mira was aiming for a completely different target. Dae-wi thinks Mira is about to get hit with another punch, but she steps past J-Doggy and reveals to her opponent that she was indeed aiming for a different target with her Sea Fog Slash. All of a sudden, J-Doggy is hit with multiple cracking, invisible hits, and we find out that Mira has transitioned her previous technique from Sea Fog Slash to Wolwang swordsmanship Marionette. Specifically, Mira struck the sword stuck in J-Doggy's shoulder and used the vibrations from the hit to cause vibrations that would attack his body from the inside. Mira then tells him that he's going to lose all his clothes in a matter of seconds. And as if on cue, the vibrations from her marionette technique causes all of J-Doggy's clothes to rip apart and reveal his toned body. Mira is declared the winner yet again, while the audiences are left shocked after seeing J-Doggy's physique. Moments later, the third and final bout of the round is about to commence. The last Team USA member, with Hawk, enters the ring and prepares to fight Mira. But she elects to sit this one out and pass the buck to Huey. Mira tells Huey to finish with Hawk, and well, he does it effortlessly. With Hawk summons his borrowed power, a bald eagle called the Master of the Sky, Thunderbird. But this is chicken feed compared to Huey's Haoyang-style Pumbaa vs. 17 Ryuk Gyeon, a summoned spirit that appears as an ape-man carrying a gigantic serpent on its back. With Hawk and Huey clash, and the Monkey King's clone easily puts With Hawk to sleep with his Yoi strike. The match ends and Team Korea advances to the quarterfinals. Shortly after that, Team Korea battles Team Poland as we see Huey facing off against Alden Ski and his borrowed power, Husaria. High above, Nox's King watches the battle unfold from his special chamber in the stadium. In a flashback from the previous round, we find out that Withhawk was able to correctly guess that Huey is a copy of a god when he senses his power. Withhawk then went on further to surmise that Huey's a messenger of God in spite of thinking that he's weaker than he initially thought. Still, Withhawk apologized to Huey for what he was about to do, telling the clone that he had to step over him for the sake of his own tribe. At that point, Withhawk sicked his Thunderbird on Huey, and as we already know, Huey made quick work of the last member of Team USA. However, we also find out that Team Vatican got definitively beaten during their own match against Team Poland. By the time we catch up to them, we see that Maria and John had already fallen in battle, with Paul being the last remaining active member of their crew. It didn't last long, however, because Paul was almost instantly defeated by their opponents from Team Poland, who are also known as the Winged Hussars. It's also notable that Team Poland stands as the tallest participants in the contest, with an average height of 194 centimeters. And if their size wasn't intimidating enough, everyone from Paul to the announcer had witnessed just how quick these Winged Hussars move on the battlefield. In the present, Mira notes that the quality of their competition is just getting tougher and tougher, especially when she sees the height difference between Huey and the captain of Team Poland, Alden Ski. To be fair, Alden isn't like the other contestants they've faced so far. The man seems to have the genuine spirit of sportsmanship in him. That is until he wears his helmet, which turns Alden into a total war freak who's out for blood. The announcer declares the start of the fight and Alden wastes no time to rush Huey. Huey prepares to meet the Winged Hussar head-on, but Alden slips past and gets behind him before kicking Huey. He goes flying several feet forward. When Huey tries to counter with his Yoi, Alden shows his incredible agility yet again and manages to fly around his opponent before barraging him with several invisible strikes, all of which Huey lets go unanswered. Mira and Dae-wi start to get concerned when they see that Alden has cranked up the intensity of their bout by summoning his own national treasure, the spirit named Copia. The Winged Hussar then flies toward Huey, but the Monkey King's clone finds an opening that lets him extend Yoi right toward his opponent. Huey's staff hits Alden's Copia directly, shattering and making it disappear before striking his opponent right in the throat. Alden tries a last-ditch effort to counter with an ability called Borrowed Power, Konipolski, but it's all too late. All it takes for Huey to shatter Alden's armor is to swirl his staff in front of his opponent. Moments later, Alden's armor is gone and Team Korea is up 1-0 against their Polish counterparts. Now, suffice it to say that Huey has gone full MVP at this point, as he mows through the rest of Team Poland. First, he takes out their second member with a single swing of his Yoi, bringing their score 2-0. Finally, Huey single-handedly sweeps Team Poland when he bashes their third member in the head with his staff. The Monkey King clone isn't done yet either. Team Korea moves to the semi-final and Huey, much like before, carries his team by making each and every member of Team Iran look like a scrub. By the time he finishes taking out Team Iran, Huey points to Team Argentina, particularly their leader Samuel, and challenges the boy to get some of this work. From there, Team Korea is scheduled to face Team Argentina in the semi-finals of the God of High School World Tournament. In a flashback from eons ago, we get a retelling of one of the demigod Hercules' 12 labors. Specifically, we see the time when Hercules picked up the slack from Atlas and told him that he'll literally carry the sky for him. In the present, we find out that Huey and Samuel are locked in battle, but it's not turning out to be how Huey expected. That's because Samuel is overpowering the Monkey King clone right now, as Huey struggles to get on his feet while Samuel pushes him down towards the ground. Samuel starts running his mouth about his borrowed power, Hercules, telling Huey that his power is pretty much tailor-made for defeating monsters, and he can smell that Huey is a monster. Samuel continues to gloat about how Hercules is known as the Monster Butcher, while Huey focuses on finding an opening for a counterattack. Somewhere else, Mugen tells Judge P that Hercules is actually one of the most sought-after borrowed powers around. In fact, everybody thought that Jin Taijin had a contract with the demigod back during the man's prime all those decades ago. Back in the middle of the match, Huey asks Samuel if he's done yapping before brute forcing his way out of their deadlock and using Yoi to take a couple of swings at his opponent. Then, Huey uses his staff to create a smoke screen and give him enough time to unleash his technique named Haoyang Style Puma verse 19, Dog Seller. This move allows Huey to summon a powerful vortex in his hands before shooting Yoi right at Samuel. The attack makes a beeline for its target, but Samuel was able to summon his national treasure, the Staff of Apollon, and strike Yoi before it could hit him. To everyone's surprise, Samuel's attack manages to shatter Yoi, and the leader of Team Argentina lunges at Huey to give him a devastating body shot. Huey nearly gets the wind knocked out of him when Samuel grabs him by the arm and starts ragdolling him with a move called Heaven Slam. When Samuel tires of smacking down Huey into the arena's ground, he uses a technique named Gigantic Earth Suplex to hurl his opponent straight through one of the stadium's pillars, past the venue of the tournament itself, and onto the side of a truck way across town. And it's not like Samuel was done either. Huey immediately spots it when a flash of light shoots his way. He barely dodges it and we find out that Samuel has summoned another one of his national treasures, the Bow of Hercules. But Huey is not out of the competition just yet. He rushes back to the venue and prepares to duke it out with Samuel. However, the Team Argentina leader just bobs and weaves away from all of Huey's punches. When he finds an opening, Samuel encounters with a solid overhand right that drops Huey. Team Japan watches all of this unfold, and Kyoichi can only comment about how powerful Hercules really is. According to him, even Yamada no Orochi has proven to be no match for the demigod. Considering that he defeated the Hydra, Yamada no Orochi's Western counterpart, during Hercules' 12 labors, Kyoichi concludes that Hercules actually specializes in fighting monsters. In the middle of the ring, Huey continues to take a beating from Samuel. Even Kyoichi thinks that there's a chance that Team Korea might lose the tournament. But all of a sudden, a staff appears between Samuel and Huey in the middle of the arena, which forces the Argentinian to stop wailing on his opponent for a moment. The audiences are surprised to see the weapon standing in the middle of the stadium. Samuel, on the other hand, attempts to lift the staff but notices that it won't even budge due to its weight. Huey then declares that he kept his promise as he motions for the staff to come to him. A flashback from before the beginning of the World Tournament then reveals that Huey had been using a regular old staff that his master, Seo Hanryang, had handed to him as part of his training. We then discover that Huey made a promise to Hanryang that he won't use Yoi, his foot, or his Nabanjim style Tai Chi until the staff breaks. In the present, we see that the actual Yoi has finally come into Huey's hands. He grips the magical staff tightly and lifts it from the ground as if it doesn't weigh anything at all. Huey then hurls Yoi at Samuel to trick him into catching it before making it expand. Yoi grows hundreds of times its original size and seemingly crushes Samuel under its weight. Everyone is shocked when they see this happen, except for Dae-wi and Mira, that is. They were wholly expecting Huey to go with that tactic. However, Samuel proves that he's no scrub when he rises from underneath the rubble and manages to lift the gigantic Yoi with his bare hands. He tries to drop the staff on Huey, but the Monkey King's clone just evades it and retrieves his signature weapon. Samuel gets dropped to the ground, as Huey tells him to concede defeat. The shame of losing to his opponent makes Samuel remember his bitter past when everyone bullied him. This prompts Samuel to rise up and go for a surprise counterattack, but Huey just slips under him and sweeps his feet, dropping Samuel again. Huey proceeds to give Samuel a 3-hit combo before attempting to smash him in the head with Yoi, but Huey stops mid-swing and, again, tells Samuel to surrender. Samuel gets another traumatic flashback and he summons the Bow of Hercules to shoot Huey, but the weapon is immediately destroyed. He then tells Samuel that this is his last warning. So the leader of Team Argentina finally concedes his defeat and the announcer declares Huey the winner. But just when they thought it was all over, Samuel gets cheeky and sucker punches Huey with another shot from his magical bow. He misses and instead hits the audience members on the rafters. The announcer tells Samuel to stop, but the boy has gone full-on crazy and continues to attack. Huey teleports right in front of him and gives Samuel a hook kick to the face before activating Bong Chim Na style Blood Vessel Bong Chim to subdue the blood-hungry boy. Just to make sure that Samuel stays down, Huey also unleashes some classic Renewal Taekwondo strikes by way of his Mori Huey original, Complete Gift Package 1/2. And in the blink of an eye, Huey manages to rescue the audience members threatened by the debris that Samuel's attacks caused by swinging Yoi and shattering them. Unknown to everyone else, Huey is also testing the durability of the King's Chambers when he swings his Yoi towards the stands. Doing this allows Huey to realize that unlike the rest of the stadium, the King's Chamber seems to be reinforced, which means it's going to be tough to destroy. This momentary musing gives Samuel enough time to sucker punch Huey again and bash his head with the Staff of Apollon. Huey gets hit on the side of the head, but he remains unfazed. He reminds Samuel that what he told him before was serious. That was his last warning. So, Huey transforms into his Monkey King form and uses Pumbaa Verse 19, Dog Seller, to put an end to Samuel's rampage. But the attack doesn't connect. When Huey turns to see what happened, he finds out that Hercules has appeared right behind Samuel to catch Yoi. Huey tries to use Expand on his staff, but nothing happens. Somewhere else, Mujin realizes that this is happening because Samuel is not just an ordinary borrowed power user like most participants in the tournament. He's a lineal descendant, which pretty much allows the borrowed power user to unleash the full power of their borrowed power, allowing them to access their full might. In the middle of the stadium, Hercules places his Lion Mane cloak over Samuel, which properly activates borrowed power idiosyncrasy, Power Lender Eyes, granting Samuel all the demigod's powers. But Judge P notices that the power lenderization is too much for Samuel to handle, and now the boy has become fully possessed by Hercules' spirit. Mujin watches this and thinks it's interesting to see a clash between Hercules' puppet and the Monkey King's clone. In the arena, the two go for an initial clash before sizing each other up for another heart-pumping encounter. We then get a lowdown on the two competitors via a flashback to thousands of years ago. First, we find out that the original Monkey King extorted Yoi from the palace of the Dragon King in the East Sea. It used to be just a pillar inside the palace called the Galaxy Rectify Rare Metal Rod, but the Monkey King took it and turned it into his very own weapon. In addition to that, a few more of the Monkey King's achievements involve eating numerous heavenly peaches, aka divine pellets, deleting his name from the Death Note, and single-handedly sweeping everyone during the First Heavenly War. All of this turned the Monkey King into a legend. On the other hand, Hercules choked a human-sized serpent to death when he was just a baby, defeated the Lion of Nemea and turned its pelt into his own cloak, killed the Hydra and threw its body in the palace of the Eastern Dragon King, who can't seem to get a break, and suppressed Cerberus with a headlock. Hercules' deeds culminate with him brute forcing his way through the Gigantomachia, the Giants' War, which then turned him into a legend in his own right. In the present, Samuel and Huey duke it out in close quarters, with each hit sending powerful shockwaves all around the stadium. The announcer gets furious about this and plans to stop the fight, but Mandoc stops him, telling him that energy is being stored within Nox's stones at a rapid speed. Huey and Samuel continue to be evenly matched, but the Monkey King's clone decides to tip the scales by using his Bongchim Na-style Blood Vessel Bongchim on his opponent. It's not enough, however, and Samuel is able to counter with a devastating punch that sends Huey flying. Huey then notices that aside from not taking any damage from his Bongchim style techniques, Samuel's Lion Cloak is able to protect his vital spots. This leaves Huey with little to no openings to strike down his opponent. Not a second passes when Samuel unleashes a shockwave with the Staff of Apollon. Huey manages to counter this by striking Samuel's weapon with Yoi and canceling his attack. All the while, Team Argentina member Carmen tells her teammate Blit that it doesn't matter if Samuel drops out of the tournament. As long as he's able to defeat Huey and take him off the board, then Team Argentina is still in the game. According to Carmen, Dae-wi and Mira shouldn't be a problem for them. In the center of the stadium, Samuel manages to grab Huey by the head and use a technique called dropping Hydra on him. He smashes Huey into the ground so hard that it causes a huge tremor all around the city. In the aftermath, there's a huge gaping hole left in the middle of the stadium where Samuel threw Huey. The crowd falls silent thinking that Huey has been taken out. However, the Monkey King's clone rises from the hole a few moments later and activates 30% of his signature Thunderbolt technique to strike down Samuel. The lightning blast in the middle of the stadium causes blackouts all around the city outskirts. Meanwhile, Judge Q watches the fight unfold on TV, expressing his amazement on how historic the emergence of a new lineal descendant is. In the stadium, Huey repeatedly punishes Samuel with successive Thunderbolt strikes, as the demigod slowly tries to summon his weapon. Judge Q sees this on screen and notes that Samuel's power as a lenderized lineal descendant is something that has never been seen before. That's because he's able to summon Hercules' actual bow instead of a borrowed version of it. Back in the arena, Samuel prepares to shoot Huey with his legendary bow, as Huey weighs his options. The Monkey King's clone knows that he can't increase the output of his Thunderbolts for fear of hurting the audience members. Somewhere else, Mugen states that Huey's Yui will definitely break if he tries to block Hercules' arrow with it. Mugen's thoughts are confirmed too when Samuel unleashes his magical arrow right at Huey, who tries to block it with Yoi. However, it takes a split second for Huey to notice that his staff is going to break if he uses it to block the arrow, so he stops Yoi mid-expansion and opts to catch the arrow with his bare hand. Huey manages to do it, but not before the arrow manages to dig itself in his left shoulder. The force from the arrow is also powerful enough to send him flying back at high speed, which endangers the audiences in the stands right behind him. To prevent the audiences from getting harmed, Huey immediately summons his magical cloud Gyeondaewon to scoop him up and redirect his trajectory. In the end, Huey crashes into the King's chamber. The Monkey King's clone manages to kill two birds with one stone with this maneuver though. On one hand, he's able to save scores of innocent civilians from getting crushed. On the other hand, crashing into the wall of the King's chamber allows Huey to further analyze its durability. He finds out that even the impact he caused on was not enough to put a dent on the chamber, leading Huey to conclude that it's made from Barbadium, the same super strong alloy that made up Natak's body. Huey gets back on his feet when Samuel lunges at him from below, so he picks up Huey and tries to smack him on the side with it, but Samuel is able to grab the staff mid-swing. To make matters worse, Huey suddenly reverts back to his human form, which leaves him defenseless against Samuel's weapon. Samuel proceeds to repeatedly bash Huey's head in with the Staff of Apollon. From the stands, Kyoichi surmises that the reason Huey reverted to his human form was because Hercules' arrow was coated with the Hydra's venom. Samuel prepares to hit Huey with the killing blow, but the Monkey King's clone is able to recover and counter with Puma Gakuso Gyouri to give him enough time to put some space between them. Huey tells Samuel that he's strong, but his master, Han Riang, is a lot more formidable than him. They get into another close quarters clash, as the two fighters trade blows. Huey notices the fruits of his training when he uses his staff to propel him towards Samuel and hit him with a powerful spinning kick. At this point, Huey realizes that combining his staff techniques, taekwondo skills, and Yoi's unrestricted transformation ability, he's able to mix things up and create a free-flowing combo that Samuel is unable to preempt. Huey calls this new kind of offense kaleidoscope attacks, as he switches from staff strikes, kicks, and expanding and shrinking Yoi to barrage his opponent with unrelenting strikes that Samuel eats up. He continues his assault until Huey finds an opening to deliver the finishing blow. Huey commands Yui to expand and crush Samuel, but the possessed boy reads his move and catches the gigantic staff with his bare hands yet again. Samuel then tries to use Yui against Huey, but the Monkey King's clone dodges and orders the staff to shrink. He then channels Mori Huey Original, the kick of Imuji, to knock the lights out of Samuel, as the lineal descendant of Hercules prepares to meet it with a solid punch. Huey notices that he's going to get hit, so he cancels the kick of Imuji for a second. Everyone else thinks Huey lost his balance, but the boy's hiding an ace up his sleeve. You see, Samuel was forced to let go of Yui to load up his punch. It lands behind Samuel, and Huey takes this opportunity to make the staff expand and hit Samuel from behind. This knocks the wind out of Samuel, and Huey takes advantage by reactivating the kick of Imuji, wrapping his opponent with energy serpents. Inside his chamber, the king continues to watch and be amused when he notices that Huey has just mentioned the word emoji. Huey's emoji technique twists and strangles Samuel so hard that he gets another traumatic flashback. We find out that the reason the Argentinian is so angry is that, aside from being bullied all his life, he's just been dealt a bad hand. For one, everybody gave him crap for being a frail, ugly little boy with a pig nose and rat teeth. And if that wasn't enough, Samuel became a paraplegic early on in life after literally saving a grandma from getting crushed by a container. Now you'd think that they'd have cut him some slack after that. He was a literal lifesaver after all. But no. The hits just kept on coming and people around Samuel just kept on dunking on him, telling him that he's a useless cripple after that. But things eventually took a turn for the better when the demigod Hercules appeared before Samuel one day and gave him his power, even calling the boy his offspring, which further cements the idea that Samuel is a bona fide lineal descendant of the powerful half-deity. In the present, Samuel falls to his knees after taking the full power of Huey's emoji technique. Crowds start to cheer for Huey, but he's not really feeling it, since everybody keeps calling him Jin Mori. Out of nowhere, Samuel springs back into action to go for a third round with the Monkey King's clone. He attempts to sucker punch Huey, but stops mid-punch when his opponent turns around to give him a look. Finally, the announcer springs into action to put a stop to Samuel's tantrum. He tells the boy to walk it off, especially since he already got humbled twice in a row today. And just to drive the point home, the announcer gives Samuel a love tap with the handle of his sword. At this point, even the crowd watching the tournament has had enough of Samuel's Bush League behavior. Huey tries to let bygones be bygones, but Samuel slaps his hand away like the sore loser he is. Samuel is just about ready to leave when the announcer tosses him the original bow of Hercules and tells him to take care of his legendary weapon. Samuel takes the bow and vows to make Huey pay for the humiliation he put him through. Unknown to Samuel, there's a bit of a silver lining to all of this. That's because back at Mujin's base, the man has decided to take Samuel under his wing to make the boy fully realize his potential as a lineal descendant. To do this, he orders Judge P to bring Samuel to him. Back at the tournament, the match between Team Korea and the remaining members of Team Argentina continues. Karma notes that they can take the lead by defeating Mira and Dae-wi, but both she and Blit find out that it's a tall task the hard way when the other two members of Team Korea easily put them in their place. With all of Team Argentina taken out, Dae-wi, Mira, and Huey advance to the God of High School World Tournament Finals. Meanwhile, Kyoichi helps Huey recover from the Hydra Venom that he got from Hercules' bow. Curiously enough, Koichi didn't have to do much after finding out that Huey's body possesses natural antibodies to counter the toxin. In the end, all that's left of the Hydra's venom is a cool-looking serpent tattoo on Huey's back. Discovering this, Kyoichi can't help but wonder how Huey was able to absorb a venom that potent. Still, he brushes off the thought and expresses his relief that everything seems to have worked out for the best. While all this is happening, Samuel takes out his frustration on the locker room's walls. We discover that he purposely stopped himself from punching Huey earlier when he felt a sinister aura emanating from Huey. We then find out that the finals will be held in a week. After Samuel's temper tantrum, the organizers have decided to delay the contest in order to fix up the damage that his and Huey's battle caused within the stadium. In the meantime, Team Korea has decided to celebrate their victory with some chicken and coke at Mori's room. Huey seems depressed though, and after a bit of prodding, he shares his feelings with Dae-wi and Mira. You see, Huey has become increasingly concerned that he's going to disappear when the real Jin Mori comes back. He even wonders if the only reason he has consciousness is because he's so far away from the original Jin Mori. After hearing this, Mira and Dae-wi present Huey with a bandana. According to them, this gift will serve as a mark that allows them to distinguish Huey from the original Jin Mori. In addition to that, Dae-wi and Mira promise Huey that they're going to find a way to prevent him from vanishing once Mori returns. Huey is touched by the gesture and the three friends continue their celebration. Ominously enough, we find out that Huey, Dae-wi, and Mira never shared another meal like that ever again. After the festivities, Mira and Dae-wi go home. Left alone to stew in his own thoughts, Huey is reminded again of how much he wants to continue living. He then senses a presence in the shadows and tells it to come out. We discover that Okwang, the king of Nox, has paid Huey a visit. Huey prepares to fight the evil old man, but the king tells him that he's not there to throw down. Instead, Okwane came here tonight to make Huey an offer. The king drops a bombshell on Huey when he tells Okwane that he's going to give him a life in exchange for coming to his side. Not too far away, we find out that Team Japan's Midori has met with Mira again. This time, she's come with a new warning regarding her prophecy about Dae-wi's supposed death. According to Midori, Dae-wi has less than a week to live and that his death will probably come during the God of High School Tournament's finals. We then catch up with the original Monkey King. He's still locked in battle with the 7th floor's last king and is surprised to find out that the Thunderbolt strike he used on the giant orb was not enough to bring it down. The little robotic guy realizes that the reason behind this was because the last king was able to regenerate from the bottom at the same time that its top part was taking the full force of Mori's Thunderbolt. In the meantime, the Monkey King and the last king clash again as Mori dodges the orb's tendrils. Mori finds an opening and strikes the last king with Yoi, but all this does is split the gigantic orb into 2 smaller ones. The last king then forms a couple of rotating tendrils to drill into its opponent. Mori blocks him with his magical staff, but the tendrils are so powerful that they break Yoi and manage to skewer the Monkey King right through the midsection. Everyone, even the gatekeeper, is absolutely shocked when they see this. But we immediately get the reveal that the guy who took the last king's attack was just one of Mori's clones. A short distance away, Mori sits on Gyeon Do-won and analyzes his opponent. He's particularly concerned about the last king's ability to multiply almost endlessly. Mori gets back into action when the gigantic orb catches up to him and goes for another salvo. The Monkey King dances around its attacks until the last king launches a single huge tendril directed at him. Mori blocks it with Yoi and comes up with a risky plan to finally defeat his opponent. First, he uses a technique named Wonwang Swordsmanship Type Number 13, Cross, before ordering Yoi to shrink. He then goes for Wonwang Swordsmanship Basic Vertical Slash to strike the gigantic spiked orb in front of him. The vertical slash causes the last king to split in 2 and, as expected, it starts to regenerate and use its ability to multiply itself. But then, Mori goes for another slash and splits the 2 orbs into 4. In fact, the Monkey King just keeps on hacking away until the last king multiplies itself innumerably into smaller pieces. Mori's monstrous companions start to panic and ask what the heck he's doing, knowing that duplication is one of the last king's signature techniques. But the little guy knows what's up. He's pretty sure that the last king naturally resists being divided even though it has the ability to do it. With that information, the little guy then surmises that there's a possibility that the last king might actually die if he managed to split it enough times. The question is, not even Mori knows how many times he has to keep dividing the orbs until it gets weak enough for him to deliver the killing blow. But this is Jin Mori we're talking about. Strategizing isn't his strong suit. So he just goes with his gut and brute forces his way through his plan. He continues to hack away at the last king. And when they get small enough, he summons a bunch of his clones so that they can simultaneously split the small orbs further. Eventually, Mori is able to turn the last king into tiny shards floating around the 7th floor. Still, this isn't enough to prevent the deadly orb from regenerating. The little spheres around Mori start to regenerate again. So Mori springs the final leg of his plan to use his Gyeon Do-won to fly into Sage Realm space. Things happen so fast that Mori's new friends barely notice that he's gone to the planet's atmosphere. In fact, only the little guy is able to notice that Mori's appearance suddenly changed on his way into space. At the same time, the last king scampers to try and recombine its smaller parts to form relatively larger orbs to continue the fight. But Mori's not giving it another chance to heal, as he summons a technique called Thunderbreaker, which blasts each and every orb floating around on the 7th floor. It's a thunder strike that's so powerful that it even threatens to hit Mori's new friends. But the Monkey King is a solid guy. He rushes toward their location right after summoning Thunderbreaker and shields him with Yoi. In the aftermath, we get a glimpse of what the little guy saw earlier. It turns out that Mori activated an upgrade for his Monkey King armor. This time, he's grown a couple of bat-like wings and thrusters on his back. This form is called Armor Suit Speed Mode. However, the exertion from all the techniques he's unleashed causes the armor suit to come off Mori's body. It returns to its original form, a large pillar, while Mori knows he still hasn't gotten the hang of using the armor suit for long periods of time. The little guy and all the other creatures that came with Mori then bow down to him and declare him the new owner of the 7th floor. Mori's glad, but reminds them to focus on their mission and continue traversing the building's lower floors. All of a sudden, the last king reappears behind Mori. He braces for another tussle in spite of knowing that his energy's spent, but everyone finds out soon enough that the last king is not there to fight. In actuality, the gigantic orb has become a 4D logic gate that will transport them to the 6th floor of the structure. The little guy notes that each gate to the lower floors is built inside the respective owners' bodies. With that, the miniature robot tells Mori that they can now enter the 6th floor. Surprisingly, Mori discovers a small glowing cube following him around. He grabs it and discovers that it stretches like clay. Despite the little guy's warnings to leave the cube, Mori shapes it into a belt to hold Yoi in his armor suit. The Monkey King then rouses everyone to move on to the next stage, but he delays the order and goes for a nap instead. Seeing this, the gatekeeper tells the little guy that the portal to the 6th floor is closing. So the gatekeeper decides to carry the sleeping Mori through the gate while all the others follow suit. A bit of time passes and Mori wakes up on the 6th floor to find out that he's in the middle of what looks like a flaming hellscape. Curiously, even his new friends have disappeared, but there's no time to think about it as Mori senses a distinct energy signature within this domain. He hops on Gundawoon and rushes off in the distance, sure that he knows who this energy signature belongs to. Moments later, he screeches to a halt and confirms that it belongs to none other than Ilpio, who is as equally surprised to see him on the 6th floor. We find out that Ilpio is currently busy fighting against a giant crab. He dodges its claws and tries to hit it with his flames, but it does nothing to the huge crustacean. To help his friend, Mori hovers above the giant crab and drops Yoi right on it. This incapacitates the crab, which gives Mori and Ilpio enough time for a proper reunion. Mori tears up and hugs his big brother. He asks Ilpio what happened to the wound he got from fighting the king earlier, and we discover that Ilpio is doing much better than before. He reveals that he was able to escape from the white giant earlier and the flames coming from the 6th floor seemed to give Ilpio a regenerative boost. On the flip side, Ilpio has also discovered that all the monsters on this floor have an affinity to fire, which means his powers don't really work on them. The best he can do to defend himself in this place is to use his martial arts. Mori thinks it's all a matter of synastry, meaning matchup compatibility, and we see Ilpio giving him a grim, suspicious look when Mori turns his back for a second. All of a sudden, the giant crab recovers and tries to attack the two friends again. Both Mori and Ilpio dodge its huge claws, and Mori can't even help but drool at how delicious the monster is. Out of nowhere, Ilpio sucker punches Mori and gives him a swift kick. The giant crab is confused with what's happening and tries to get in on the action, but the two warriors tell it to stop butting in. So, Mori and Ilpio hit it with the combined force of Rei Taekwondo and Samsu, Ho-Chuk times reverse Ho-Chuk, which slices up one of its claws. With the crab incapacitated, Mori tries to get back at Ilpio for attacking him earlier, but Ilpio tells him to stop. The nine-tailed fox tells Mori that he only attacked him to check if he was truly the real Jin Mori, something that he has undoubtedly confirmed now. On the other hand, Mori gets suspicious of Ilpio and asks him how he can prove he's actually the real one. Mori is immediately convinced when Ilpio reminds him that he just used reverse Ho-Chuk on the giant crab. With the misunderstanding out of the way, Mori asks Ilpio to take him to the human realm. However, Ilpio tells his friend that they need the fox speed to do it, and since the king stole the fox speed, it's a no-go on that request right now. Mori then starts to call for his new friends, the gatekeeper and the little guy. The Monkey King has even started calling the little guy with a new nickname, Raccoon. He wonders where they've gone and Ilpio tells him that Mori's new friends were probably taken to the underground tunnel within the 6th floor. It's the same place where the monsters of this place live. Mori asks why they didn't take him along with Raccoon and the others before surmising that the underground tunnel is the same place where the owner of the 6th floor resides. He then gets Ilpio up to speed about how things work within this structure and informs him that each floor owner is as strong as one of the princes of Natak. The two friends then get the idea to hold the giant crab they fought hostage and take them to the underground tunnel. On their way there, Ilpio surmises that the only reason that Mori wasn't taken to the tunnel was because Yoi was too heavy for the monsters to carry. Back in the human realm, Dae-wi and Mira meet after they pay their respects to their late loved ones at the columbarium. They then get to talking and reminisce about the first time they met and how time seems to be flying by. We discover that it's been 2 years since they've met, and Dae-wi asks Mira what was her original goal during the regional competition. Mira lies and tells him that it's to establish a school for Wong Wang swordsmanship, but in reality, Mira was looking for a suitable partner during the time. The two walk along the city streets when it starts to rain. Mira asks Dae-wi if his eyes and borrowed power are getting better, to which Dae-wi says no. According to Dae-wi, he feels as if the wound he got from the king is holding him back from even trying to access his borrowed power. Mira tells him to take it easy and we get a romantic moment between the two of them when Dae-wi shields her from the rain with his jacket. The two then play around in the rain until they eventually decide to make a run for it to Mira's house. There, Mira starts to feel awkward that she's alone with Dae-wi, and the romance between the two continues to bud. It turns out Mira has lent Dae-wi some of her clothes, but they're too small, so she hands him over some of her dad's old threads that fit Dae-wi better. We then get a hilarious moment between Mira and Dae-wi when he sees that she's straight up cooking slop in the pot, so he volunteers to cook dinner for the both of them instead. They start eating and, as we all know by now, Dae-wi's one hell of a cook and Mira loves the noodles he made. But then we see Mira become glum when she remembers the real reason that she invited him over tonight. A flashback then reveals that Mira has come up with a plan to prevent Dae-wi's death in the upcoming tournament finals. To do this, he got a dose of sleep medicine from the nurses at the event, which she plans on slipping into Dae-wi's drink. From there, she plans on keeping Dae-wi inside her house for 3 days to make sure that she can avert Midori's prophecy and save his life. Because according to Mira, the war against Nox will be over in a couple of days, so keeping Dae-wi here while they deal with the cult would significantly improve his chances of survival. In the present, Mira finishes gorging herself with Dae-wi's delicious bowls of noodles and checks the clock on her wall. She decides that it's the best time to slip in the sleep medicine, so she tells Dae-wi that she's going to make some green tea inside the kitchen. Mira prepares the drink, laces it with the powder, and serves it to Dae-wi. He sniffs the tea before taking a sip and can't help but notice how strange it smells. Still, Dae-wi just chalks this up to Mira being a terrible cook. Mira stares intently as Dae-wi puts his lips on the mug. But just when he's about to take a sip of the drink, Mira gets paranoid and starts to think about the possibility that the laced tea could be the thing responsible for Dae-wi's death. So she slaps the mug away from him, taking Dae-wi by surprise. He asks her what's going on, to which Mira tells him to just step out of the fight and let her and their allies deal with saving Mori and Taijin. Dae-wi tries to plead his case that he can't just stand by while everyone else goes to war, but Mira finally reveals Midori's prophecy to him. Listening to all this, Dae-wi remains cool, which infuriates Mira. She tries to make him realize what's at stake, about how he'll never get to see her or Mori again if he dies. Still, Dae-wi tells her that the future is not guaranteed. He's not entirely convinced about Midori's vision. But Mira's all too determined to do everything she can to save Dae-wi. So she pulls out a sword and tells him that she's going to make him unable to participate in the finals whatever it takes. Before she can take the first swing, however, Mira's mind starts going places and she starts jumping to conclusions. She becomes stuck with the idea that there's nothing she can do to prevent Dae-wi's death from coming true, even if she locked him up inside her house. Mira starts to break into tears as Dae-wi approaches and tells her that there's no use worrying about the prophecy if there's nothing they can do to prevent it from coming to pass. To Dae-wi, what matters most is that he gets to spend his remaining time with the people he loves, doing the things he wants with them. He goes on to promise Mira that he's not going to die, and she wraps him in an embrace while telling him to keep his word. Dae-wi then tells Mira about how he now understands what his late friend Seung-tae meant when he told him how happy he was to see Dae-wi fight for him. Mira and Dae-wi share a tender moment locked in each other's gentle embrace. Somewhere else, Huey listens to the king's proposal. The old man guarantees him that he can give Huey the individuality and continued existence he wants using his power. All it takes is for the boy to come to his side. While this is all happening, Dae-wi and Mira finally have their first kiss, while Huey weighs his options alone inside Mori's apartment. 2 days pass, and we finally see the beginning of the God of High School World Tournament's final match. The announcer, as always, hypes up the crowd about the upcoming contest. Inside his chamber, the king asks Manhwa how the ritual went. Manhwa tells his boss that the deification process will be finished as soon as the tournament's finals are over. The king then speaks to someone off-screen, asking them how they feel and referring to them as the next God of Fight. And that's the first part of God of High School's Ragnarok Mega-Arc, aptly named the World Tournament Arc. How are you finding Dae-wi, Mira, Huey, and Mori's adventures so far? We can't wait to hear about it in the comments section. As always, we hope you liked this video and rest assured that we're going to cover what happens next in this heart-racing Manhwa series. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be the first to see the next video we're cooking up covering the next chapter of this climactic storyline in the God of High School universe. As always, it's been a pleasure going on this ride with you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.